I never thought I'd be that guy, the one telling some stranger on a forum about how his marriage fell apart. Honestly, I used to think I had a pretty good grip on life, trust, honesty, loyalty. All of that got shredded the day I found out my wife cheated on me. And not just with some random guy, but with our mutual friend. That's what made it sting worse. It wasn't just betrayal, it was a punch to the gut coming from two people I trusted most in the world. Started as a regular morning. My mother was buried just the day before, a crowded service that left everyone exhausted, emotionally drained. I've been holding myself together, trying to be strong for her and for my family. When I got home that night, I expected the usual quiet, maybe some comforting words from my wife. Instead, I found her in the living room, her phone in her hand, eyes darting away when I walked in. At first, I thought she was just texting someone. That's what you do, right? Check your phone, maybe a friend, a coworker, hardly suspicious. But then I caught a glimpse of the screen. The name made my stomach drop. Jake, my buddy, the one I'd known for years, the guy I'd had beers with, played golf with, trusted. Seeing that name on her screen with the last message she sent him, "Can't wait to see you tonight," made my vision go fuzzy. My fingers clenched the edge of the coffee table so hard I thought I'd leave dents. I didn't say a word at first. Just stood there, feeling a cold sweat break out as my mind raced. My throat felt tight, like I'd swallowed something bitter. I kept waiting for the moment to say something, but part of me just wanted to watch her squirm, see the guilt in her eyes. Instead, she looked up, caught me staring, and froze. "Who's Jake?" I finally managed, voice rough. She hesitated, then shrugged. "Just a friend, nothing special." Nothing special, that's what she called him. I knew better. I saw the way her fingers danced over her phone, the nervous flicker in her eyes. I'd been with her long enough to know when she was hiding something. The worst part was the way she tried to brush it off, like I was overreacting. But my chest was pounding so hard I thought I'd pass out. That was the moment I knew I had to dig deeper. I needed proof. I couldn't just walk around with this gnawing suspicion. So I grabbed her phone, kept my hand steady despite my trembling, and scrolled through the messages. What I saw made my stomach turn. Late-night texts, flirtatious emojis, promises to meet later. Every word dripped with betrayal. She had been lying to me for weeks, maybe longer. The hardest part was not losing my mind right there. My hands clenched into fists, my palms sweaty. I felt like I'd been punched all over again, only this time by the realization that the woman I loved, the woman I trusted implicitly, was capable of this level of deceit. It was like a punch that knocked the wind out of me. I looked up from her phone, voice barely a whisper. "How long has this been going on?" She didn't answer right away, just looked at her lap, avoiding my eyes. Then softly she said, "Since before the funeral, I didn't want to ruin everything, okay? I thought I could fix it." Fix it? Fix what? Her lies. The fact that she'd been sneaking around behind my back, especially during our darkest hour. I could feel the world tilt. Every instinct told me this wasn't just a mistake. It was a betrayal that cut deeper than I could have imagined. And that's when the seed of my plan was planted. Revenge. Not just to punish her, but to make her feel the cold weight of betrayal she'd handed me without a second thought. I kept my voice calm, but inside I was boiling. "You lied to me the entire time," I said. "And for what? A few drinks, a quick fuck, or maybe just because you thought you could get away with it." She looked away, tears prickling her eyes. I wanted to scream, but I knew better. This wasn't the time for outbursts. It was the moment to figure out what I was really going to do. The betrayal wasn't just the affair, it was her hiding it from me, pretending everything was normal. I could feel the anger simmering just beneath the surface, ready to boil over. That's when I started thinking about how I was going to hit back, not with violence, but with something more calculated. Something that would leave her feeling just as helpless as I did right then. I didn't want her to walk away unscathed. No, I wanted her to realize what she'd lost, what she'd betrayed. And I was just getting started. After I pulled her phone from her trembling hands and saw the mess of messages, I knew I couldn't just blow up and walk away. I had to keep control, at least outwardly, while I figured out what to do next. I was furious, but I also needed to think clearly. The fact that she was crying now, wiping at her eyes with a trembling hand, just made me angrier. The betrayal had shattered everything I thought I knew about her, and I was staring into the abyss of a future I didn't want. Yet I also knew I had to be smart, calculate my moves carefully. I told her to sit down. She hesitated, then slowly lowered herself onto the couch, her face streaked with tears. I stood over her, feeling the weight of everything crashing down on me. My hands were still slick with sweat, and I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. The room felt too small, too suffocating. The smell of stale coffee and laundry detergent seemed to choke me. I could taste the bitterness rising in my throat. "You lied to me about everything," I said slowly, voice cold but controlled. "You think I'm just going to forget this, that I'll forgive and forget after a few apologies." Her voice cracked. "I didn't want to hurt you, I swear. It just happened. Happened, that's your excuse. That you just happened to cheat on me during my mother's funeral." I cut her off, voice rising a little. "While I was mourning you were with him, you think that's just an accident." She looked down, tears streaming down her face, her lips trembling. "I was so lost, I thought I'd never get through it. And Jake, he was there, he listened. We talked, it meant nothing." "Nothing," I echoed, feeling my stomach tight. "That's your defense, that it meant nothing." "Well, it meant something to me, something huge. I just don't think I'll ever see you the same way again. You betrayed me with our friend and you think I can just ignore it." Her shoulders shook as she tried to speak, but no words came out. Instead, she just looked at me, eyes pleading for forgiveness I didn't have. It was then that I realized I couldn't stay silent anymore. I had to plan my next move, and I had to do it smart. I told her I needed some space and walked out of the room, but I didn't go far. I went straight to my computer. I needed evidence, proof. I had to be sure I could prove everything, even if she denied it later. I knew Jake's email, his number, everything I needed to expose him too. It was time to dig into her phone and her emails, find the receipts that would crush her. I could feel the adrenaline coursing through me, making my hands shake as I clicked through her messages. There were more than I expected. Hidden conversations, cryptic emojis, and promises that made my stomach churn. I copied everything, knowing this was my ammunition. I had to be careful. I wasn't planning to confront her immediately. I wanted to be ready, to have the upper hand. I started to think about how I could turn this around, how I could make her feel the full weight of her betrayal. It was one thing to cheat, it was another to be caught and humiliated. While I was copying files, she knocked on the door. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. I didn't turn around. "I'm not sure I'll ever be okay again," I said honestly. "But I am going to make sure you regret what you did." Her voice trembled. "Please, just talk to me. I love you. I messed up, I know, but I want to fix this." Fix it? That wasn't happening. Not anymore. I'd been betrayed beyond words. The trust was shattered, and I wasn't about to fix what was broken by her lies. I wanted revenge, something cold, calculated, and final. Something that would make her realize she'd lost everything because she'd thrown it all away. In that moment, I realized I had to get out of the house, clear my head. I needed to think about what steps to take next. But deep down, I knew I was already plotting her downfall. She had made her choice, and now I was going to make sure she paid for it. I just had to be patient, bide my time, and wait for the perfect moment to strike. The game was on now, and I was just getting started. The next few days felt like I was walking on a razor's edge. Every time I saw her, I could feel the tension crackle in the air. She was desperate to talk, to somehow mend what she had broken, but I wasn't having it. My mind was swirling with plans, revenge, justice, whatever you want to call it. I knew I couldn't just confront her and walk away feeling satisfied. I needed to have her exactly where I wanted her, completely exposed. I kept her at arm's length, pretending to be calm, but inside I was boiling. I spent hours poring over her messages, emails, and social media, gathering every shred of evidence I could find. While she was busy apologizing, crying, and begging for forgiveness, I was quietly building my case. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she'd done, and I was determined she'd regret it for the rest of her life. One night, I finally found what I needed, a photo. She had sent Jake a picture of herself, topless, with a caption, "Wish you were here." I stared at it for a long moment, stomach twisting. That was the final nail, the proof I needed to show her that her lies had crossed a line she'd never come back from. I felt the cold satisfaction creeping in. I'd catch her in her own web. The following morning, I told her I was going to talk to someone, therapist, lawyer, whoever would listen. I needed her to think I wasn't planning anything serious. That was part of the plan. I wanted her to lower her guard, to believe she still had the upper hand. Meanwhile, I started drafting messages, emails, even a letter I never intended to send, just to have everything ready. She looked at me with wide, pleading eyes. "Please, can we just talk? I love you. I swear I do." I looked her straight in the eyes and said, "You lied to me, betrayed me during the worst day of my life. That's not something I can forgive overnight. I need time, and a lot of it." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "I'll do whatever it takes, just don't leave me." That's when I dropped the bomb. I told her I was planning to expose everything, her affair, the photos, the messages, that I had proof and I wasn't afraid to use it. Her face went pale and she stammered, "You wouldn't do that, please don't." I smirked slightly, feeling the cold edge of my plan sharpening. "Oh, I think I will, because you need to understand what's coming if you keep lying to me. I want her to see she's lost control completely." She begged again, pleading for mercy, but I had already made up my mind. My plan was simple. I was going to give her a taste of her own medicine, expose her to everyone we knew, and make her realize that cheating isn't just a mistake, it's a choice. And it comes with consequences. Over the next couple of days, I set everything in motion. I made a fake social media account under a different name, started messaging Jake, pretending to be someone else. I wanted to get more dirt, more details. Every conversation I dug up confirmed what I already knew. The affair had been going on for months. I also sent screenshots of her messages to her closest friends, family members, anyone who could ruin her reputation if they found out. I watched her crumble as those messages circulated, her face growing pale, her hands shaking. She tried to deny, but the evidence was undeniable. She was losing control, and I loved feeling her panic. That rush of power, knowing I had her exactly where I wanted her. It felt like justice in its purest form. One evening, I called her into the living room, the phone buzzing constantly with notifications. She looked at me, trembling. "You think you're going to scare me with this?" she asked, voice trembling. "No," I said softly, "I just want you to understand something. You thought you could get away with lying, sneaking around behind my back, but I've got everything now, and it's time for you to face the consequences." She looked away, tears streaming faster now. "You're going to ruin me." "Good," I said coldly, "because you deserve it." That night I printed out everything, screenshots, messages, photos, and put them in an envelope. I didn't send it yet, but I knew I'd use it when the moment was right. The plan was simple: confront her publicly, expose her secrets, and watch her fall. I was done waiting. I wanted her to see that she had made her choice, and I would make damn sure she paid for it. My stomach was twisted, but I felt a strange, cold sense of satisfaction. I was finally in control. The pieces were in place, and soon she'd have to face everything she'd tried so hard to hide. The moment finally arrived. I had everything ready: the photos, the messages, the emails. The plan was simple but ruthless. I would confront her in front of everyone, lay all her lies bare, and make her understand that betrayal doesn't go unpunished. I had kept my cool for days, waiting for the right moment, and now it was time to execute. I felt the adrenaline surge as I prepared myself, hands slightly trembling but my mind crystal clear. That evening, I told her I was going out to clear my head. She looked hopeful, maybe thinking I was about to cave or beg her to stay. I kissed her cheek and left, but I didn't go far. Instead, I drove to the local bar and called the one person I trusted to assist me, my brother. I explained everything, handed him the envelope, and told him to be ready. I knew I couldn't do this alone. I needed an accomplice to make sure the evidence hit hard and fast. When I returned home, I noticed her sitting on the couch, nervously fidgeting. Her face was pale, her eyes darted around the room. As I stepped inside, I felt the weight of her gaze, like she already sensed what was coming. I took a deep breath, then casually sat down across from her. "I have something to show you," I said, voice even but cold. "And I suggest you listen carefully, because this isn't going to be pretty." Her eyes widened and I could see her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" I pulled out my phone, unlocked it, and played the recordings and showed the screenshots I'd collected. Her face contorted as I laid everything bare: the texts, the photos, her secret rendezvous. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The evidence was right there, undeniable. You lied to me, I said. You cheated on me during my mother's funeral. And not just once. For months you were sneaking around behind my back with Jake. That's a slap in the face, especially now. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. I didn't mean for it to get this far. I was weak. I thought I could fix it. You thought you could get away with it. I cut her off sharply. But I'm done listening to your lies. You're finished. Then I handed her the envelope. This is everything, all the evidence I've collected. I want you to see what you threw away, what you betrayed me for. She looked at the envelope with trembling hands, then burst into tears. Please, I love you. I didn't mean for it to happen. I was just so lost. I shook my head slowly, feeling my stomach twist. Love, that's funny, because love doesn't cheat. Love doesn't lie. And love sure as hell doesn't betray someone during their mother's funeral. She looked devastated, defeated. I felt nothing but cold satisfaction. I knew I had to act now, to push the final nail in the coffin. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a set of keys, holding them out to her. Here, I said, voice steady. Take these, your things are packed in a box in the garage. I want you out of this house by tomorrow. I want nothing to do with you anymore. Her eyes widened in shock. You're serious? Dead serious. You made your choice. Now live with it. She looked like she was about to fall apart completely, but deep down I knew this was the only way she'd learn her lesson. I needed her to feel the loss, to understand what she'd done. As she grabbed her purse and headed toward the door, I watched her go, feeling a strange mix of relief and emptiness. The house was finally quiet, but the ache in my chest was still there. I'd done what I set out to do. She'd never hurt me again. And I knew that from here on I'd rebuild. I had to. But for now I just stood there, staring at the closed door, knowing this wasn't the end, just the beginning of a new chapter. The house felt empty the moment she left. The silence was deafening, almost mocking. I stood in the living room, staring at the door she had just walked out of, feeling the mix of relief and hollow ache swirl inside me. A part of me wanted to break down, scream, do anything to shake the chaos out of my chest, but I didn't. I knew I had won the battle, but the war was far from over. I sat on the couch, feeling the rough fabric dig into my palms, and let the events of the last few days wash over me. The evidence I'd gathered had done its job. Her face, the look of sheer panic as she realized everything was out in the open, was burned into my mind. I replayed the moment I handed her the envelope, the way her trembling hands fumbled with it, how her eyes looked like they were about to tear out of her head. That moment was the sweetest revenge I could have asked for. She finally saw what her lies cost her, me, our relationship, her reputation. But I was also painfully aware that the worst was yet to come. I'd made up my mind to cut all ties. No more excuses, no more second chances. I told her to get out, and I meant it. I packed her things myself, threw her clothes into a box, and sealed it tight. I left it in the garage with a simple note: don't come back. I didn't want her to think she could manipulate her way back into my life, not after this. That night I sat alone, the glow of my phone blinking with notifications. Friends called, messages flooded in, but I didn't bother replying. I didn't want anyone's pity or advice. I knew what I had to do: move on, rebuild, and forget. But inside, I felt a strange, bitter sense of victory. She'd betrayed me, lied to my face, and thought she could keep it hidden forever. But I'd uncovered her, and now she was completely exposed. As I poured myself a glass of whiskey, I realized how raw I still felt. The betrayal had cut deep, the kind of wound that leaves a scar you carry forever. But I also knew I was stronger now, smarter than I was before. I had taken back control, and that was what mattered. I'd make sure she remembered this day, not just as betrayal, but as the day she lost everything she ever pretended to care about. The next morning, I started the process of cleaning up the house. It was more than just removing her things. It was about reclaiming my space, my life. I cleared out her side of the closet, packed away her jewelry, her pictures, everything that reminded me of her betrayal. It was cathartic in a way, stripping her out of my life layer by layer. And then I did something I knew would hit her hard, something I'd been planning since the moment I discovered her affair. I drafted a text to her, not to beg for her to come back, but to make her understand exactly what she lost. I kept it cold and precise, making sure she couldn't dismiss the message as anger or impulsiveness. You cheated during my mother's funeral. You lied, betrayed, and humiliated me. You thought you could get away with it, but I know everything now. You've lost the only person who truly cared. Don't bother trying to contact me anymore. I hope you're happy with your choices." I sent it, then pocketed my phone. That was the final nail. No going back, no second chances. She was out of my life for good. Later that day, I went to the bank, withdrew some cash, and closed the joint account we'd shared. I didn't want her to have access to anything that could make her think she still had power. I handed over the keys to the house, and with that, I finally felt the weight lift from my shoulders. It was over. I was free. Sitting there, watching the last of her things disappear from my life, I realized how much I'd changed in just a few days. I was hurt, yes, but I was also stronger, more determined. And I knew I'd come out of this better, wiser, more cautious. I'd rebuild my life piece by piece. And one day I'd look back and know that I'd taken control of the chaos. The lesson was clear. Betrayal cuts deep, but it also awakens something raw and unbreakable within you. I'd faced the worst and I survived. That's the only advice I can give anyone in a similar boat. Trust takes years to build, seconds to destroy. If someone betrays you, don't wait around for them to realize what they lost. Cut the cord, face the pain, and come out stronger on the other side. Because if you don't, they win. And nobody deserves that. The days that followed were some of the hardest I've ever endured, but also the most revealing. I'd cut her loose, severed the ties that once bound us, and finally started to breathe again. The house was quiet, too quiet, but it was mine again. I felt the weight of her absence like a stone lifted from my chest, even if the ache of everything else was still there. I kept busy, working, cleaning, trying to pretend I was okay. But inside, I was slowly piecing myself back together, one small step at a time. Looking back, I realize how much I underestimated my own strength. I'd been naive, trusting blindly, but betrayal awakened something fierce inside you. It's like a fire that burns everything down, but from those ashes, you find a new version of yourself, wiser, sharper, more cautious. I learned that you can't control other people's choices, but you can sure as hell control your reaction to them. I chose to take back my life, and no matter how much it hurt, I knew I had done the right thing. The final act was straightforward but decisive. I handed over the keys to the house, packed the last of her belongings in a cardboard box, and took a long, deep breath. As I opened the door for her to pick up her things, I felt a strange calm. This was closure, not just for her but for me. I watched her hesitate, clutching her purse, eyes red and swollen. She tried to say something, but the words caught in her throat. I didn't need her explanations anymore. I'd heard enough lies to last a lifetime. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for," I said quietly, voice steady. "And I hope next time you consider what betrayal really costs." She looked at me, tears slipping down her cheeks, then silently turned and left. I closed the door behind her and let out the breath I'd been holding. The house was finally silent, the life we'd shared now just memories stored in a box that I'd probably throw away someday. But for now, I felt a strange sense of peace. That chapter was closed. Walking to the window, I watched her get into her car. My mind replayed her face, her betrayal, all the lies and promises she'd broken. I felt the sting again, an ache that would likely stay with me forever, but it was different now. It was a lesson learned, a reminder that the worst pain can also be the catalyst for growth. I thought about all the nights I'd spent obsessing over her, trying to fix what was broken, only to realize that some things aren't fixable. Some betrayals cut so deep that no amount of apologies can heal the wounds. That's when I understood. The only way to truly move on was to let go, to cut ties completely and rebuild your life on your own terms. And that's exactly what I did. I started fresh, got a new job, made new friends, and finally let myself feel again without guilt or shame. I learned to trust myself more, to recognize red flags earlier, and to value my own happiness above all. It's not about revenge, though I'll admit that played a role in sparking my determination. It's about reclaiming your power after someone tries to strip it away. If I could give advice to anyone stuck in a similar situation, it's this: don't wait for someone to apologize or change. If they betray you, walk away. You owe it to yourself to find peace again. Trust is fragile once Broken, it's nearly impossible to repair. Better to cut your losses, learn the lessons, and move forward with a clearer mind and a stronger heart. I'll never forget the pain, but I also refuse to let it define me. I've learned that resilience isn't about ignoring the hurt. It's about facing it head-on and choosing to rise above. That's what I did. And now, I'm finally free.